welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are making a Chinese comfort food that is oftentimes served at dim sum restaurants. Steamed spare ribs with black bean sauce and taro. It's one of the easiest dim sum recipes you can make at home, and this recipe tastes exactly like the ones you get at a dim sum restaurant. It's also a delicious one-plate meal to go with rice. The total time for this recipe is about 1 hour. So, let's get started. These are the ingredients you'll need. 1 pound spare ribs, usually sold at Asian supermarkets. About 1.5 to 2 strips of spare ribs this size is 1 pound. 1 tablespoon dried fermented black bean, also sold at Asian supermarkets, and adds a salty umami flavor to the dish. You can't substitute this with normal black beans, they must be fermented. A few slices ginger, 3 optional jalapenos, 3 cloves of garlic, half a taro. Some Asian supermarkets have pre-cut taro. I recommend getting the bigger taro variety versus the smaller variety since the smaller taros have a somewhat slimy texture. 1 tablespoon potato or cornstarch, some sugar, black pepper, and salt. For the sauces, we'll need half a tablespoon of shaoxing wine, half a tablespoon of light soy sauce, 1 tablespoon oyster sauce, 1 teaspoon sesame oil, and optionally 1 teaspoon dark soy sauce. This gives the spare ribs a richer, darker color. And if you want even more umami flavor, you can optionally add 1 teaspoon mushroom powder. Let's start by preparing a tub of water to soak the spare ribs. Then run the spare ribs in cold water until the water runs somewhat clear. This should take about 1 minute. Next, cut the spare ribs into bite-sized pieces by cutting between the bones of the spare ribs. Then, soak the spare ribs in cold water for at least 30 minutes. This step is done to remove some of the red, bloody color. Some recipes overdo it with the washing and soaking, which removes too much of the color and flavor. I find this combo to be just the right amount of washing and soaking. While the spare ribs are soaking, let's prepare the taro and the sauce. Let's start by rehydrating the black beans. Soak 1 tablespoon of fermented black beans in warm water for a few minutes. For the taro, cut the taro to be roughly the same size as your spare ribs. The amount of taro you add is up to you. I want the spare ribs to be the star of the dish, so I'm only going to use half a taro. Mince 3 cloves of garlic. Slice some ginger. Remove the seeds of 3 jalapeños and chop. The fermented black beans should be rehydrated by now. Drain the water and give them a rough chop. And that's it for chopping. Let's prepare the sauce. Combine half a tablespoon of shaoxing wine, half a tablespoon of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce. Now switching over to my teaspoon, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon sugar, 1 teaspoon sesame oil, optionally 1 teaspoon of dark soy sauce just for more color, and optionally 1 teaspoon of mushroom powder for more umami flavor. Now mix together until the solid dissolves. Let's do some prep to make things easier for us later on. Fill up a kettle and boil some water to speed up the steaming process. Then, ready the ingredients we'll need to combine to our spare ribs. Have a plate ready with the minced garlic and chopped black beans, our sauce, and 1 tablespoon of potato or cornstarch, and a plate of paper towels to dry the spare ribs. After soaking the spare ribs for 30 minutes, time to give them one final shower. I'm going to rinse the spare ribs with a few slices of ginger to get rid of some gaminess. Rinse the spare ribs for an additional 3 minutes under running water. After 3 minutes, most of the red in the water should be gone. Then dry the spare ribs on paper towels. Removing any excess water now will prevent water from pooling during the steaming process. You don't want the water to dilute the flavors of the dish and turn it soupy. Now that the ribs are dried, combine the sauce and the ribs in a bowl and massage in the flavors for a minute to help the meat absorb the flavors. Then add the garlic and the black bean and massage for another minute. Finally, add 1 tablespoon of corn or potato starch and massage for one last minute. The starch serves 2 purposes here. 1, it serves as a light coating to slightly protect the meat from overcooking. 2, the starch helps bind the meat to our sauces. The result is a more flavorful and tender spare ribs. Now let's assemble everything. First, put the chopped taro pieces on the bottom of a deep plate. Then add the spare ribs and chopped jalapenos on top. Prepare your steamer. I put in the rack and plate first. Then add the water that we boiled earlier so I don't burn my hands. You want the water to just touch the bottom of the plate. Bring the water back to a boil. Leave a little crack on your pot or pan to let the steam out and steam for 20 minutes. While the spare ribs are steaming, you can sing some karaoke, dance to some K-pop, or make some purple rice. After 20 minutes, time to eat. This recipe tastes exactly like something you would get at a dim sum restaurant. There's just so much flavor in the spare ribs, and the taro is like a sponge that soaked up all the flavor, pooling on the bottom of the plate. I've tried this recipe with kabocha squash and cassava roots, and the kabocha squash released a lot of liquid during the steaming process, and it made the recipe very soupy, and the kabocha squash was pretty soft. The cassava roots had the opposite problem, where it was still very hard and dry after 20 minutes of steaming. So if you try this recipe, I recommend doing it with taro. As always, I hope you try this recipe, and if you do, please leave a comment down below, and please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you.